The name's Bond. James Bond.
No. I am your
fathers, brothers, nephews.
Why so serious?
Cousin's former roommate.
I am the knight. I am.
Matt the Matt here on a Sunday rainy afternoon. I'm here with my co-host Zack and Tack. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Cold and rainy. Just terrible outside.
Another day in 2021. So we got a few topics to talk about today. We're going to get started with our first main topic. It was announced on Monday that they are moving forward with another Tomb Raider film from the 2018 movie that starred Alicia Vikander, Walter Goggins, and Dominic West. That one was directed by Roar Uthag. Originally this movie, the sequel, was supposed to come out this year in March. Well, we're already in February tomorrow, and they haven't even started filming it. In fact, the news that we're bringing up today is they actually replaced their director that they originally had, Amanda Wheatley, who did High Rise with Tom Hiddleston, and they brought in Misha Green, who just finished doing HBO's Lovecraft Country. I did not watch that show, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, it's the Lovecraft type of story, so you're going to have that kind of more darker stuff and everything that's happening with that. So it's kind of that darker thriller kind of horror stuff that's really happening with there. I didn't watch too much. I watched like clips here and there, but what I saw, it looked good.
Yeah, and going back to the Tomb Raider, the first one that came out in 2018, not confusing the original with Angelina Jolie back in the early 2000s. This one came out in 2018 with Alicia Vikander. I liked that film. I saw it in theaters. I liked Alicia Vikander. She's a good actress. She's married to Michael Fassbender. She looks the part, and even in the movie, she really brought more across to life. And it really was a nice adventure, fun 2-hour popcorn, flick.
Yeah, see, that movie was based off of the new trilogy of video games that was done by Crystal Dynamics, and those games are really good. I played those games. They're really good. They're basically kind of movies that you just play as a video game. That's kind of the style of it. So, an Uncharted style. I'm assuming that the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland is going to be kind of very similar to this, because those are, in fact, just movies in game form. That's why they kind of do so well. They're more linear, action-based games and stuff like that. And the movie was, it basically, from, the major plot beats down to the outfits, down to her weapon of choice, the bow and arrow, and all that stuff, all that was ripped, directly from the games. There's different plot things, which kind of makes what potentially they could do next very confusing. Because in the movie, her father was still alive and then died on the island, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm remembering that right. And that's not how it was in the game. Her father was dead like years before in the game, and how he died is actually very pivotal in the second game in the series. So they're going to have to make even more changes to kind of, if they're using the second game as the plot, as the basic kind of plot outline for their second movie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because even the ending of the first movie, I mean, it left it open, but it didn't leave it open in terms of this is where they're going to go next.
Mm-hmm.
They just left that, she's probably going to be going on another adventure.
Right.
But there's no hint at what it might be or anything like that.
Right, so as the games go, basically they had this one, which was kind of more delving into Japanese lore. The next one was kind of delving into Byzantine lore. So it's kind of all about the supposed prophet who went in. It loosely ties itself to Christianity, but then it also distanced itself from Christianity because we don't want to anger the people who are overly religious or the people who hate religion. So they're trying to straddle that myth of Christianity prophet type of deal in there for the game. So they could do that. The general overarching of what she's searching for could be the same, and that could be a good base for it, because out of the trilogy of those 3 games, the second one is hands down the best one. So it's a good plot line. But the problem is, it's a good plot line for what it had. So some of the characters that made the game good and gave the story in the game either A, didn't die this way that they died in the movies, or B, don't even exist in the movies. So
yeah, we'll see. Like I said, Misha Green is not only directing, but she's rewriting the script. So we don't even know, based on what their original script was for the sequel, it looks like they're throwing that out and starting over from scratch. So we don't have a release date yet for the movie. It might come out next year, it might come out 2 years from now. But we'll keep you updated as more information comes. We're going to move on now to our next topic, talking about Kevin Hart joining the Borderlands video game. We're staying on the video game topic right now.
Yeah, video game movies. Ironically, the Borderlands is a franchise that I always thought would have the easiest way to get to be a successful video game to movie franchise. Because there's not a lot of them that actually worked. Like, ironically enough, the Angelina Jolie films, ironically, were some of the best video game to movie adaptations.
Besides Mortal Kombat.
What?
Besides Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, besides Mortal Kombat. And Mortal Kombat was more like the it's so bad it's good. And we are getting a new Mortal Kombat movie, which I'm super psyched for. But I think one of the things that I'm really looking forward to the easiest way to explain the dynamic of what this movie should be, a Borderlands movie, think about the recent Jumanji ones with Kevin Hart and The Rock. Mm-hmm. Think about that. And that's basically kind of what it is. Instead of people getting dropped in, I mean, they could do that whole thing if they wanted to make a real-world overview of it. But if you're just dropping, it follows 4 main characters that go through a quest, and they have to do things. And the only question that I have is that Kevin Hart is supposedly cast as Roland. Let's equate this in the actual, like, character stuff. Roland is supposed to be the Rock of this series. And instead of casting The Rock as The Rock for this series, you cast Kevin Hart to play the big, tough, gruff, more straight-lined character. Like, he's typically like he was legitimately, like, kind of based off of The Rock. He does quips, but he's the more serious out of the 4 main characters that kind of were there. So there were so many. I think Kevin Hart is hands down a great choice to be in this and to be attached with Borderlands. I just don't think he's Roland, but he can impress me. Kevin Hart's impressed me before.
I mean, Kevin Hart is more of the comedian. Most of his movies are comedic roles. Even in Jumanji, he played the comedic. Even though that movie also had Jack Black being the comedian too. Mm-hmm. The only movie I've seen recently that came out, I want to say, early 2019, was called The Upside with Bryan Cranston. And that was the only film that Hart played a more serious, straight role. Mm-hmm. He had very little comedic moments in that. It was more straight, serious. And I said, okay, he can do dramatic roles. So maybe this is his next step in that journey of...
He's trying to do, like what Liam Neeson did for action movies.
Yeah.
And that could be a thing. The one good thing about Borderlands is because it's a very... It's not a game series. It's not a story series that takes itself seriously at all. I mean, the entire point of the game is to try and find this mythical vault. And guess what turns out to be the mythical vault? Spoiler alert, if you care, it's a giant tentacle monster. So it's like, it doesn't take itself seriously at all. So the entire ethos of the game isn't like a serious action flick. It's a comedy action, but more action than comedy.
Alright, so other than Kevin Hart, they have Kate Blanchett starring in the film. So we'll see what other cast members they bring onto the project. Now we're going to move on to our next topic. And our next topic is on the Spy Kids reboot. So, Spy Kids. This was a franchise that started back in around early 2000s, 2001.
Had a very 90s feel to it.
Yeah. I remember seeing it over spring break that year. We were down in Amelia Island and we went one night, and my sister and me and my dad went and saw that, while my brother and my mother went and saw the Steven Soderbergh movie Traffic. So, I liked the first Spy Kids. It was new, fresh, fun. Alan Cumming was the villain in that. You had Antonio Banderas, Carla Gugino as the wife, and then Alexa Panavega was the daughter, and I don't know the kid's name, but his character was Junie or Juno or
something
like
something.
that. And then they made like three more sequels.
Mm-hmm.
I only saw the second one.
Yeah.
The
It
third
also
one,
had the. I'm pretty sure the third one was Spy Kids 3D. So that was one of the ones that.
And it had
when
Stallone.
3D had like, when the whole 3D craze was going around.
and it had Sylvester Stallone as the villain
Mm-hmm.
in that one. Then they made a fourth one recently with Jessica Alba in there. And the two kids are in that movie. I never saw it. Well, they are in there grown up. The weird thing for me, so they're rebooting it, apparently. The thing that doesn't add up to me, though, Robert Rodriguez, who just did Alita Battle Angel, he did Sin City. I mean, he did all the other Spy Kids movies. He directed them. I don't get why he's returning to direct a reboot. To me, I thought he was going to just come on as a producer and give it over to somebody else to direct and give their vision of this reboot. Zack, what do you think about bringing on the same director who just did the last four, and this is a reboot? This isn't a sequel, which you can say, okay, that makes sense. This is just a complete reboot.
Right. That's where it kind of gets me, where I'm just like, I'm looking at it and kind of scratching my head. Because I'm just looking at this and saying, well, you did the original, and now you're doing the reboot. And it's going like, so what are we rebooting?
Now,
Or do you just now have the leeway to make it whatever you want, and now you're going to make it like a PG-13 Spy Kids instead of like the PG, the bad guys were like thumbs and all this stuff and hands and all this other stuff. Is like, and it was the entire plot spawned so many other like 90s kids movies or like the 90s feel kids movies and trope of, oh, the parents are kidnapped or gone and it's up to the kids to do something. I mean, it wasn't the first one to do that, but it was one of the the biggest ones to do that.
Now, I want to bring up to you that I have seen a director make a film in a franchise, kind of rebooting it, but then coming back again and rebooting the franchise again. And that director is Martin Campbell. Martin Campbell did GoldenEye, James Bond, Pierce Brosnan, then he returned and did Casino Royale, which was a reboot with Daniel Craig. Could this be kind of like that?
It could be. Spy Kids isn't James Bond.
No.
So it doesn't have all that other stuff. There's not like... Because James Bond, let's not forget, James Bond is also a book series. And was that well before it was movies. So...
And GoldenEye wasn't necessarily a reboot, but they did bring in a new James Bond, and they went back to being more serious and more, edgy, rather than the previous one with Roger Moore.
Right.
So, and then like I said, Martin Campbell returned in Casino Royale. That was even more grounded and darker, and recast the actor again. So, could they be doing that again? I mean, are they going to go more edgier? Are they going to go more darker?
I mean, that's kind of what I would assume to be, not necessarily because, Rodriguez is coming back, but more because that's how almost everything's going right now. Everything's coming back and being darker and edgier and all that stuff. And so you're not really getting something that's being rebooted and being as lighthearted. Or if the series was more lighthearted, you're not seeing a reboot of that series and it also being kind of lighthearted-ish. Everything's coming back and just going like, this ain't your mom's yoga or something like that. And it's like, we got edge, we got blood, we got guts. Look, there's a half-clothed woman over there or something. Like, that's how everything's kind of running right now with reboots and that stuff. They're trying to make it darker and stuff. So it's like, I could see that, but like, I'm sorry, Spy Kids is not a franchise that I ever... If you came up to me 10 years ago and said, Spy Kids is going to get rebooted in 10 years, and I would look at you and just said, they're making a second Spy Kids? Like, it's not one of those franchises that had a lot on it. It's like almost going up and it's like, hey, we're redoing Agent Cody Banks. Shout out to if you even remember that movie and its sequel. I'm pretty sure it had at least one sequel. And it's just going like, but why? Like, why are we doing this? Why not just pick something new? Like, why not pick a new property, a new anything to do? It doesn't make sense to...
Well, to me, yeah, and another point is, like, instead of rebooting, like, for the director, I mean, instead of rebooting a franchise you've already done, why don't you just make a sequel to the movie you just made, Alita Battle Angel?
Which everyone is clamoring for.
Yeah, which is good.
That was a great movie, and it deserves a lot. It deserves a lot more recognition than it got.
Yeah. So instead of putting the money into rebooting something you've already done, take that money and put it into a sequel of your last movie that everyone wants.
Right.
So, on that note, it'll be interesting if any of the original cast, even though this is a reboot, I mean, they could go in a direction where they do have the kids grown up now, and their kids are at that age that they were at in the first one where, mommy and daddy are going off on an assignment, and something happens. We need you to come save us.
Do a complete reboot, but now we just have the... That would be terrible just because Antonio Banderas is just such a better actor.
Well, that's the other thing. The kids aren't doing that much anymore. So it's like, I mean, they're still... The girl really, Alexa Panavega, she really isn't doing anything. Like, she has a family, she has kids. She's not... You don't see her in movies, except for a Robert Rodriguez movie once in a while. And the kid, he does stuff here and there. He was in that Green Inferno movie directed by Eli Roth. But other than that, he's got a name that you're like, oh yeah, that guy. So could they bring back maybe the girl at least and have her be grown up and have her own kids? And maybe. Or are they just going to reboot it completely and a whole new cast?
I could see two things that have actually happened. One, Robert Rodriguez was said, you have to make a movie, and it can't be Alita Battle Angel for whatever reason. This is the movie execs talking to Robert Rodriguez, and they're saying, you can't make Alita 2. You have to make some other movie. And you're just going like, okay, I'm going to make Spy Kids, and I'm going to reboot it. And they're just looking at him just like, okay. Like, that's how I feel like this came about. Like, this is like either, like, this is an annoyance thing or something. The original franchise was not big enough for it to be anything.
No.
So the fact that it's being rebooted by anybody is just a big question mark.
Well,
it's just why.
Yeah, why and what's the point? And, who knows? Maybe something will come out of it. Like I said, maybe we'll get the Casino Royale of Spy Kids. But for now, we're going to move on to our next topic for today. And our next topic is Cloverfield.
Mm-hmm.
Cloverfield, the original came out in 2008. I was a senior in high school. I remember seeing that movie.
Yep.
I did not like it. Because I did not like the found footage approach.
That was like all the rage back then.
Especially, yeah, back then it was found footage, found footage, found footage. The problem was, when you're sitting in a movie theater with a giant screen and the camera's rattling the entire time, I got a headache.
Yeah, you're
And
about to throw
nauseated.
up.
Yeah, and nauseated. I was like, I don't like this movie.
That's like, okay, to bring this up, that would be a good movie to have, like, streaming on your phone.
Yeah.
Because it's that kind of, it's that more low-budget style that would lend itself to a YouTube, that would lend itself to a streaming on your iPad or your phone or something. It lends itself to a smaller screen stuff. You're not going to go and watch Cloverfield, the 2008 version, on IMAX. You do. You're going to have to give everyone sick bags because the first time that camera goes tumbling and then everyone just goes, "Hua!"
Yeah, and that was directed by Matt Reeves, who went on to do the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. And now he's currently directing the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. So that launched, Cloverfield 1 launched his directing career. And then they came in 2016, 8 years later, and did 10 Cloverfield Lane. I remember the promotion for that movie. No one knew what that movie was at first until the first main trailer, and then at the end they had the word Cloverfield in it, and it was like a sequel.
Right, everyone was going like, is it a sequel? Is it a what? Is it a this? Is it a that?
And it wasn't a sequel, it was more like an anthology. Like, still taking the idea of, aliens coming to Earth, but it's an entirely different story, completely different characters in this hour and a half movie. I like the second one a lot better. It was with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who was in Birds of Prey, and John Goodman. It was just two people in a bunker and wondering what was going on outside until you get to the last 10 minutes of the movie and all the stuff that John Goodman was talking about. Oh, it's aliens, it's, the government, and then she goes out there and he was right this whole time. So
turns out that crazy doomsday prepper was right.
Yes. And it was a good, like I said, very character-driven, 90-minute sci-fi, low-budget film. And it wasn't a found footage movie. It was a shot in HD, normal camera, aspect ratio. So, and then they did another one 2 years later called Cloverfield Paradox, which Paramount, and once again, Paramount is behind all these movies, but for some reason they were in a financial trouble. I don't know why, because they knew had the Mission Impossible movies. I think it was because the Independence Day movie bombed at that time and they needed something. And they sold it to Netflix. And Netflix premiered it right after the Super Bowl that year, 2018. If you remember all the promotions during the Super Bowl, stay tuned after the Super Bowl where you can go on and watch Cloverfield Paradox right away. After the Super Bowl.
Yeah, after the Super Bowl. So that way I'm going to sit through a 4-hour Super Bowl and then I'm going to go watch 2 hours or something. When half the time you're watching the Super Bowl at a party. It's not like I'm sitting at home watching the Super Bowl. I'm at someone's house.
Or you're at a restaurant.
Right. And it's just going like, that was, whoever thought of that harebrained scheme should have been fired.
It doesn't matter really. The movie was horrible. I mean, I don't like the first one that much, but the third one is just... Now I see why you dropped it on Netflix. Because I don't think anyone would have gone and seen it in the theater. So you would have lost a lot of money. So actually you made money by selling it to someone. So that's why I'm surprised that they're making a sequel to this. I'm like, I thought after the third one it was done. But apparently, no, J.J. Abrams is going to be coming back to produce. They have a writer brought on, and it is going to be. Let me make sure. This is not going to be like another anthology, like 10 Cloverfield Lane and Cloverfield Paradox. This is a direct sequel to the 2008 version, but it will not be a found footage movie. So that's a little weird to me. That okay, you're going to do a straight sequel, but it's going to be shot completely different from the first one.
Well, found footage, there hasn't been a good found footage movie in so long.
Chronicle.
Eh.
That was better than most.
Right, but I guess. But before that, so what else? If you're going by money-wise, you're going all the way back to the first Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Like, that is the best, other than, I guess, like the Blair Witch Project?
Yeah, but even the last Blair Witch didn't do anything.
Yeah, but the original one.
Yeah, okay.
That one was...
So, 99?
Right. So, it's been a long time since they've had something that's been good with that. So, the found footage kind of is a dead medium right now. It doesn't work. Especially in the age of YouTube and all that stuff. You're not using your camcorders and all that stuff. You're using DSLR cameras to do everything. That's what all the vloggers are using. So it's like, and like, how would you do it? I guess you could do something because everyone has an iPhone or an Android phone and that records video. So you could do a found footage one like that. But the entire ethos around a found footage film has to change of how you're doing it. You would legitimately have to recreate a new way of doing stuff because your found footage is legitimately someone pulling out their iPhone and doing something like that. So the whole medium is how you would do a found footage film in the modern day is so different than how even the last successful, found footage film would be. So I can see as to why they do that, and it's a giant monster. It's a giant monster movie. That's what it's going to end up being.
And now, I don't remember how the first one ended, other than the thing coming down from the sky and landing in the ocean, and that's what they think that's how this whole thing started. What I mean by is, I don't know what characters survived by the end of the first one that could potentially return for a sequel. So, I don't remember.
I would say none, because who cares? Just
Well, that's my point. I don't know. Since this is a direct sequel, I'm like, okay, so who survived out of the main characters that they could potentially bring back for the sequel? And I don't know the answer to that because, like I said, I haven't seen the first one in a long time, so I would have to go back and watch the ending to be like, oh, maybe they'll bring that character back. But for right now, there's been no casting, there's been no director attached, so we're just going to have to wait and see, and no release date. But I'm sure since these movies are low budget anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if by next year, late next year, early 2023.
I think the most easiest way that they could do something is just legitimately have like the best clips from the movie be like played over voiceover in the beginning, and then your first real shot of the new stuff is like a zoom out, and it's like a military thing, and they're using that footage as like a PowerPoint presentation, and then you go make it, it's like, we have to kill this son of a gun. And that's what it is.
Maybe,
that's your movie.
Yeah, but then to me, wrapping up this real quick, is that it's not really a sequel, it's an anthology. If you completely tell a different type of story within the frame of what all these have been from the beginning, then it's not a direct sequel. To me, a direct sequel is bringing back a character or two that directly comes next and continue to follow their journey, whatever that may be.
Right.
So we'll see. Right? Like I said, right now, we just found out just the other day that they're moving forward with another one. And they have a writer. And JJ's going to come back and produce. Hopefully he will do a better job than the Star Wars movies. Now, our next thing that we are going to talk about is going to be a separate video than the one we're doing right now. We're going to do a live reaction to the Mighty Ducks Disney Plus trailer that premiered earlier this week. So this will be on a separate video. So look for that.
Always remember to hit subscribe wherever you are. Podcast is available wherever you want to get your podcast. If we are not there, let us know, and we will get there. Remember to like our Facebook page, Attack Bat Productions. We're also going to be putting these episodes up on YouTube. Once again, Attack Bat Productions. The website will soon launch. Same thing, Attack Bat Productions. If you feel as if I'm saying Attack Bat Productions too much, well, get used to it because we got to make sure our name sticks in your head. Thanks for listening, everyone.